I think Kamen Ghost is a good show. I had to get that out the way because talking about how bad Kamen Ghost is has become so common that I probably wouldn't have made this video if I thought it was bad. Or it probably would have been like maybe a minute long of me just saying I just don't like it, and probably no further detail into that. But obviously I do like it since I decided to make this whole video anyway. So let's get into that deeper with the plot. Kamen Ghost is the story of Ten Kujitakuru, a boy who died on his 18th birthday due to a monster known as a Ganma, who is basically a ghost. But Takaru gets to come back as Kamen Ghost and must find the 15 heroic icons, toys of the show based on figures from real life and mythology, in 99 days to have his wish granted to come back to life. He also meets an old friend of his, Makoto, or Kamen Rider Spectre, who's trying to revive his younger sister. So Takaru forfeits his wish of coming back to life to make a wish to revive Spectre's sister, Kanon, until he can get an additional 99 days after gaining the power of his father. This leads to him learning about the fake utopia known as the Ganma world, befriending the disgraced prince of the Ganma world, Alon, or Kamen Rider Necron, alongside learning lessons from the 15 historic icons along the way. He then has to stop Adele and the Ganmizers from turning the human world into a fake utopia like the Ganma world, and finally come back to life. This plot is overall pretty good, especially after Takaru's first 99 days, where you get into all the great messages about what it means to be alive and the connections you form with others and what those mean. But to get deeper into that, let's talk about the characters. Let's get the companions to our three main writers out of the way first before we talk about them. Well, the four that aren't basically just background props for the entire show, except for like an episode, or is kind of important, but more in the secondary writer's story than as their own character. These people are Onari, a monk at the temple Takaru lives at, and Akari, a scientist. Onari is genuinely just funny to me, despite not getting any massive character focus, other than a few scenes, such as where he gets a villain, Javert, to become a monk by making him realize how good life is now that he has a human body. Which doesn't really have a lot of screen time devoted to it, but it's still a nice arc overall. And then you have Akari, who gets a lot more actual major plot focus, as she's Takaru's other best friend, and she's basically responsible for half the world building in the second half, so she's desperate to try to understand how the Ganma and their world work, to the point where she even created a weapon to fight enemies with, that's literally just a leaf blower that shoots confetti, but she makes it cool nonetheless. Then there's the guy who put Takaru on his journey as Kamen Rider Ghost, and helped in the creation of the Ganma world, Edith. And his pet, Yurisen, became Takaru's little helper in his journey as Kamen Rider Ghost. Overall, Edith is genuinely a decent character. It was pretty funny, and it was a really good moment when at the end we learned the twist about him. You get to see how guilty he feels about basically screwing over everyone by working for both sides. It's really well done. Also, Yurisen, despite not getting a lot of development, it's pretty funny whenever they're on screen. But let's finally get into our three writers for the series. As the main character of Kamen Rider Ghost, Takaru is a good embodiment of the themes and ideas of the series, those being about what it means to be alive and how the connections people form affect the people and the world around them, even after their death. Takaru starts and ends the story of Ghost with about the same general personality, being a guy who wants to help the people around him. There is growth in places, like when Spectre made him entirely doubt himself after being beaten up by him, but he gets over this hurdle and continues to move along, even befriending him. Or when he first entered the Ganma world and saw someone's body get disintegrated, which makes him distrust the Ganma and those from the Ganma world even, though he became friends with one of them. Until Makoto dies, kinda, due to Takaru's inaction, which allows him to get over his dislike of Ganma and gain grateful for it. The majority of his growth comes in with learning lessons to the different philosophies that the 15 heroic icons hold, and the bonds he holds with others. Both of these consolidate in what's probably Takaru's three standout moments to me. The first is how he gets his final form Mugen, which is through him getting killed a third time by having his icon, which held his soul, get destroyed. All of his friends are saddened by this, continue to go on, even fighting against the monster that destroyed Takaru's icon, due to the connections that they forged with him having an impact on their lives, even if he's now gone for good. which is able to bring Takuru back to life and allow him to have a form based off his friends who are emotionally to him. Which, even though I only care about 4 of the characters to help bring him back, his bonds with them are very strong and believable, making the final form debut all the more powerful. Even if the form itself kinda comes out of nowhere. Zero build-up. The second is after he gained movement, where the 15 Icon team after his journey believe Takuru has no use for them anymore. Takuru still needs them. He wants to continue looking to them for guidance, even though he has a stronger form now. This leads to an amazing scene where he defeats one of the villains only using his Icon-based forms, and Grateful, which is a form using all 15 of his Icons. It's very powerful, and it's very nice because it feels so believable because of the growth that Takuru had gone through out the show. The third and final scene is where he learns that the main villain, Adele, was the guy who killed his dad. Takuru's dad's death is a major aspect of his character, to the point where the reason he came back after the first 99 days was because his father gave his soul to him. So learning that this guy who he wanted to convert into being good because he believed that he has the potential to become good, killed his father, makes him hesitate in his beliefs. But in the end, he still helps Adele realize the truth and stop his plans, even if Adele still dies in the end. So overall, I can understand why people don't like Takuru. I can find him generic, but I think he's part of what makes the show good to me, even if he's not the best character ever. Let's start this off by talking about everything I like about Makoto. All of his suits look really cool, and his general personality, being a guy who put his life on the line to protect his friend and his sister, makes him likable, even when he's in the first arc, being a jerk, like your typical secondary writer. The issue is that he has a massive relevancy problem after the first arc, which is 12 out of 50 episodes. And that's not even mentioning how he's basically written out the show twice. The first is when he becomes Nekom's slave for 4 episodes, before he then dies technically for 5 more episodes. The technical part is because Makoto was walking around as a soul in a duplicate body based on his Icon. So when he died, his soul just went back to his body in the Ganma world. So he comes back with a Deep Spectre form, which doesn't have any character or thematic reason to it at all, and then is basically a background character until the Copy Spectre stuff happens. Which is such a massive example of the writer not knowing what to do with a character, because it basically comes out of nowhere and does nothing to move his character along, or have any type of thematic relevance. But yeah, I like Makoto, and think he's fine personality-wise, but he's held back massively by the writers not knowing what to do with him really after the first 12 episodes, basically. The guy who brings the people who like and hate the show together. Probably because his arc leads to the biggest growth in the show, unlike his 2 other writer companions. To properly explain his arc, I need to go into more depth about what the Ganma world is and how it's trash. The Ganma world is a world created by Alon's father, Adonis, alongside the power of the god known as the Great Eye. This world is a place where people walk around as only their souls, with their bodies stuck in capsules. They also look down upon and ignore all emotions, looking down at the human world for being a place with bodies and where they value emotions. So basically Alon starts as a douchebag until his brother Adele decides to kill his dad while destroying his Icon and capturing him, and blame Alon for actually doing that, before destroying his Icon, making him go into his body and get put into the human world. At first he had no interest in having to deal with Takuru and his friends, but after becoming friends with the takoyaki maker Grandma Fumi, learning the benefits of emotions, allowing him to become friends with Takuru and the others, and finally seeing that the Ganma world is flawed as it is now, especially after his father tells him he had doubts about the world himself before he died, to his older brother Adele, which fully makes him not want to rejoin them. But the last part of his development occurs when his friend Grandma Fumi dies. He's saddened greatly by this, wanting to throw away his emotions. Then he goes to see her funeral, and he sees how much she meant to people, making him realize that even if she's dead, he can keep her alive in his heart. Deciding to fully join the team, even getting a green sweater to replace his Ganma World jacket. This is the best arc in the show, and the one of the most satisfying end to it. Basically, he's the best character in the show. And I'm basically done outside the villains. which aren't really the best, outside of Javert and Alon, who both become good guys in the end. There's Igor, who's a scientist and is easily the best villain with the most personality. Then there's Gyro and Sayonji, who both could have been written out of the show and basically nothing would change. And then there's Adele, who's the main villain, who works thematically as the opposite to Takaru, but is very boring personality-wise. So yeah, I think Kamen Ghost is a good show. Even though the plot isn't the best, and some of the characters could have been better, especially characters like Spectre, and most of the villains. The overall positive vibes and messages about what it means to be alive and the importance of connections to other people made the show very enjoyable to watch. Honestly, I don't get why people dislike it so much. But that's what the comment section is for. Till the end, see you in another review.